Hi, welcome to the Unhinged History Podcast, where that is
Angie.
and I'm Teresa. And last time you guys tuned in, I got to tell the story of Bessie Coleman. No, Doris Payne. I got so confused where I was, but I took way too damn long. And so Angie never got a chance to tell her story. And this is what happens when you take 9 pages of notes and then you end up, adding to the additional storyline. So yeah. But anyhow, we're gonna go back to like giving you kind of a gentle lead up as we just kind of go back. What you've missed is offline without recording. We talked about the dangers of different hair removal techniques. And then we were talking about how, we basically own socks old enough to earn the title, ma'am.
To vote and pay taxes.
Oh my gosh. The last time my sister-in-law visited, she was talking about how, we've all grown up and we're all these things. And she's like, look, my ability to drink is already able to drink legally. And that cracked me up.
That is brilliant. I'm gonna have to remember that. Like, just because I can doesn't mean it's not older.
Right. And I mean, she's just like, like I've been drinking, like, kind of sitting down with Mike and I, like, we're the young pups going, look, I've been at this for a while now.
I love that my ability to drink is old enough to drink.
And I feel like that is such a better way to look at it than saying, I'm 29 again.
Woo!
I mean, like, I like feeling like I'm young inside, like, oh gosh, I'm 21 at heart. And then you hang out with a group of people that are either just out of college or still in college, and you're thinking, get me away. I'm oh yeah.
I was too old for this when I was this age.
Yeah.
That was me anyway.
I mean, I felt like that, but I feel like I think the beauty of my neurology is I always feel like the only sober person in a room full of drunks.
Okay, I like that. Um, I'm not sure where I land on that scale.
I mean, sometimes I feel like I might be the only drunk in a room full of sober people, but either way, there's a definite mismatch.
We went to the wrong room.
Yeah, it's like, can't we just find a happy mix? Like, I just need a
Where's
pack
the
of,
hallway?
yeah, I need some neurodivergence up in here. Like, you get me a pack of some autistics or ADHD peeps, and we'll have a great time.
That's probably why we totally bonded.
And it was because I just decided to test the waters. Like, this meme is highly inappropriate for someone that you've just met via text. I'm gonna let it rip. You know it, and either I'll burn this bridge or it'll be fabulous. So
we went
send.
with fabulous.
Dude, we did, didn't we? Like,
And send.
it was just one of those things like, well, I mean, the worst that could happen is, she tells Ian to never talk to Mike again, and it's fine. He doesn't have any friends.
I just ruined a 30-year friendship. It's cool. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh my gosh. Yesterday, we without even like, hey, do you have any stories about Ian or anything like that? We're somewhere, we're running an errand together, and he just brings up this story about hanging out with your husband when they were kids that I never knew. He said, yeah, I was hanging out with Ian and they were taking his dog to the vet. And I mean, this was up in Sonora, and he goes, there's people who have mountain lions as pets in Sonora. I mean, that was the lead in. That was how we got there. And I was like, first off, I call hogwash. And he goes, no, these things happen. I was like, that's a highly dangerous pet. And he goes, yeah, but anyhow, we take Ian's dog to the vet. And
nice segue, Mike.
I mean, it was brilliant. And he goes, I walk into the lobby and I see a beige colored large animal with this just looking at me and moving towards me. And he goes, I did, just out of the corner of my eye, I saw this, and I immediately plastered myself against the wall and just closed my eyes and started whimpering because I knew this was it. I knew that the mountain lion is coming for me. This is how I go. And
it's not what I had planned.
Yeah, I mean, and he's a kid, right? Like, I don't know how old. You'll have to ask Ian, how old
I
they were.
cannot wait to ask him about this.
And he may not even remember this because it sounds like he was in the exam room and the woman at the counter goes, no, 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 sweetie. No, 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 sweetie. It's fine. It's fine. He's great. He's super sweet. And he leaves him out lying. And she goes, no, baby, no, baby, open your eyes, open your eyes. And he looks and it's a mastiff.
Oh, poor him.
And he said that the mastiff's owner had 3 of them because one giant breed dog isn't enough. You need to have a pack of them.
Mm-hmm.
And when the herd went to the vet, the one liked to stay at the front when his exam wasn't going, and he would curl up underneath the receptionist's feet, and she would take her shoes off and rub his belly.
As you do. Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you do. And once he figured out that this dog wasn't a mountain lion and wasn't hungry
and was in fact a dog.
Yeah. Then he was just like, oh, thank God, that was a close one.
I almost died today, Ian. I cannot wait to hear Ian's side of the story because I 100% because I know this man, 100% know he saw the Mastiff from like a mile away and was just chill because that's how he is.
Yeah.
Like he'll look at you and be like, "Why are you panicking? It's okay. It's okay. Come this way." Like, why? Yeah. Why do you not have a panic bone in your body? Like, I don't think it's ever been scared.
I mean, I feel like Hubs and I, we live in just, we're on the threshold of an anxiety attack at any given moment. I'm looking for a reason. Now, if it is an actual emergency, you've never seen anybody calmer.
Yep.
But a grocery store, I'm going to be just a paper bag, just hyperventilating in the car before I go in.
Mm-hmm.
Plane crash, I'm great. You want me on the scene of a car accident. You do not want me at the hair salon with you because I will figure out a way to freak out.
Same. Only my issue is that I can't do finger wounds, teeth wounds, or toe wounds. So like, please don't bring me your hangnail. But like, I see that you have this massive gash in your leg. Yeah, I got you. Let's work with that. I can help that. We yeah, okay, fine. I don't let my children jump into the pool more than 3 times if dad's not home because if they crack their head on the concrete, I'm just gonna pass out.
Story. I got a story for you. My mom would pass out at the sight of blood.
Okay.
And my little sister is accident prone and knew this. And at the age of 3, was riding her bicycle, going down the sidewalk, and another little girl was going down her sidewalk, and they're coming towards each other. And they're both looking across the street at me and the brother. We're playing Goofman, being loud. And they don't see that they're having a head-on collision. The other girl turns her head the last minute. My sister turns her head the last minute, and my sister goes to pull her hands away from the handlebars, but she doesn't get all of her fingers. She only gets 9 digits out of the way. And so the handlebars smash the fingers together, and the tip of her finger busts. And so my sister knows that she should need a Band-Aid. No, she's like, it's fine. It's fine. So at the age of 3, my little sister goes home and goes, Mom, I need 2 things. Like, I'm going to, and like my little sister washes her own hand and she goes, I need a Band-Aid and a kiss to make it better.
Hey, I'm good.
And like, this is all I need from you. Like, you have 2 jobs here. And so my mom slaps a Band-Aid on it. Like, it's dry. She's like trying not to look at it because everybody knows she passes out at the sight of blood. And she kisses the tip of it. And my sister goes out to play. Because of this thing that my mom has, she didn't look at the finger. She didn't know that the tip of the bone had broken because nobody looked at it. And so we just treat it as normal until like my sister goes to bed. A couple hours later, she wakes up and her hand's swollen and blue. And they take her to the doctor and they're like, yeah, she broke her finger. And they're kind of looking at her like, how did you guys miss this? And,
well,
because we let the 3-year-old manage her own first aid.
That checks. The amount of times, just like a couple years ago, Ian was hanging shelves in the garage, He knows this, right? Like, don't bring me your hand wounds. I'm gonna pass out. He is, those like the metal ones, and they have like the little slide in thing and they clip in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's installing those. Well, I don't remember exactly what happened, but I'm out there helping him, and all of a sudden I hear it clip in, and him very calmly say, "Hey, babe, I need you to lift this side of the shelf very carefully." And I'm like, "Okay." And he goes, "It has my hand in it."
Mm.
So he's got like the webbing.
Yeah, yeah. Angie's indicating the spot between middle finger and forefinger,
Yeah.
or not middle finger, thumb and index.
Yeah. Yeah. This
Those are the
spot.
words I'm looking for. But we have to narrate for those playing at home.
That's true.
Okay.
So this spot, that little meaty spot right there. And I proceed to not help him to the best of my abilities. I come as close to him as you can get given the like what he's doing, and I'm like trying my best to help him but not look at him.
Mm.
And he's over there like, I have never met anybody calmer. He's like in excruciating pain, working it out. "I just need you to hold this end up so I can pop my hand out. I just need you to hold this." And he's like calmly talking me through it. And I'm over there
Like you're the one with your hand in a bear trap.
yes. So he finally gets his hand out and he goes, "Can you bring me an ice pack?" And by this point, it's already super bruised. Like I don't remember.
It's been 30 minutes and he's had his hand caught in this thing the entire time.
The entire time. Yeah. So I bring him the ice pack. I'm literally I'm like face turned the other direction as I'm handing it to him. And I am literally, the insides of me are like getting ready to be the outsides of me. Like I am freaking out. And finally, like hours and hours and hours and hours go by. And he's like, "It's literally just bruised, babe. It's fine. Do you want to look at it?" "No, I don't. Thank you." "Okay, well, eventually you're going to see it. So it's on my hand. Like I can't, you don't want to check it out while you have a chance to like not panic in public." Okay. It's super bruised, little like nicks and cuts in there, like right in the little fatty piece where the meat went. I felt so bad for my inability to help this man, and I'm over here just like, "I need you to help me. I'm gonna die right now." And at this point now, Ethan's involved too, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, Mom, just help it."
I love it. I love it so much.
Pray for me, guys. Somehow I've made it this far in life. I'm 39 years old. I have made it this far. I haven't passed out once. I've handled some finger wounds. Not proud of how I handled them. We're good. It's fine.
I've never passed out. I've never passed out. I'm like thinking about it, like I've never have, but it's like, kind of wonder what that would be like just to have a surprise nap.
That's exactly what it's like. I've only done it once. And I was really sick when I did it. So like I just woke up on the bathroom floor. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know what led up to it. I woke up on the bathroom floor with my mom yelling because she thought I hit my head on the bathtub.
Now, I take baths that are oh, sorry, I interrupted.
No, that was it.
Okay. I mean, I take baths that are like boiling hot water, like my cup of coffee in the morning is colder.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tend to lay in there until the water starts to get to where you wouldn't use it. It's not hot enough to, poach your vegetables. And that's when I get out. And last couple of times that just like made all the blood rush, and I sat down on the edge of the the edge of the tub, and I'm like, this is not a good idea. And inevitably the dog has pushed the bathroom door open by that point, and she's up in my face, and I can't handle that. And Mike walks by both times, and he's like, what's going on? I was like, I'm not okay. And he knows what's happening. He knows the water was too hot. I was in there for too long. And then I stand up too quickly. And both times I was able to realize I'm going down. And so I
I'm just
decided
gonna
to
sit.
I'm like, maybe the edge of the bathtub isn't the safest perch. And so then like I get myself down to the floor. But both times I've done that, he's seen and he's thinking that I'm not moving under my own volition. And he begins to panic.
Aw,
I know.
love it.
I know.
Oh, sweetheart. I'm fine. I'm just not fine.
Yeah, it's like, I'll be fine. I just need some floor time.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes that's what you need. Time on the floor. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So realizing that you have picked some zingers of stories, I have been not on pins and needles, but I've been super curious what the hell you're going to bring today.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So remember yesterday when I said after we recorded that while researching my story, I learned that I do not, in fact, have a degree in Civil War snafus.
And that was one of those things that made me like, is it time yet? Can't you just call in dead to the rest of your plans? Because I have questions.
Well, I'm here for you. I'm here to tell you the story. Also, my other disclaimer to this is there is a lot of legality in this story that I don't fully understand. Like, I don't understand military law and how some of this plays out. And for the sake of not making this podcast 3 hours long, there's going to be chunks of the story that once you guys hear the story, you're going to want to go and listen to every podcast I listen to and read every article I read. And there's a book about this man. Like, just do it all because it's so worth it. It's so worth it. So my story, and I think this is actually from a meme that one of the two of us sent to each other years ago, because when I refound it, I was like, oh my God, this guy.
Is it the guy who gets the pole through his head?
No, different guy.
Okay.
But just as epic. My man's name, are you ready for this?
Lay it on me.
Robert Smalls. I know that's not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Okay.
I know who this is. I mean, I don't know everything, so I'm super thrilled about this.
Okay. So and also I can pronounce every name in this story. So I am very excited about this.
I mean, when the main character's name is Robert Smalls, you're on a good start.
I've got somewhere to go, you know? So he is born into slavery on April 5th, 1839 in Beaufort, South Carolina. His mother is Lydia Polite. She is owned by a man named Henry McKee, who is perhaps Robert's father.
No, wait a minute. Her surname, for lack of a better word, is Polite?
Yeah, Polite. Now
I want to know if that's by, what is the word I'm looking for? By personality or by...
Okay, I'm going to say personality, and I'm going to say that because she was house help. So
okay.
I'm just putting the two together and thinking that perhaps she was exceptionally gorgeous and very
like demure.
had a very soft demeanor about her is kind of what I'm thinking. Because of the power she holds over Mr. McKee himself.
Oh,
I think these things.
This has a lot of hidden context in there.
Yeah, and not a whole lot of, at least from everything that I read, there's not a lot on her, but the things that she does set him on this path, and it all ends up like, I don't want to blow the story by just talking about it. So anyway, it's possible that Henry McKee was the father. It's possible that his son was the father, or that the man that manages the fields, his last name is Smalls.
Okay.
So some historians think it's him, but the bulk of the people think it was Henry or the son.
Okay.
And that is because Robert is allowed to stay in the house with Lydia. So he is raised amongst the other white children of the family. I don't know if Lydia was a maid or a governess. I'm not sure what her role in the home was, but he was raised with all the white children. So he's that, lighter skinned, and he's been treated like for the most part, like as his childhood, for the most part, as the rest of the white children in the family.
But I mean, one of the things I recently learned is that it was common to have children born in enslavement raised alongside the family.
Mm-hmm.
And so oftentimes they did learn how to read or write, just kind of not through osmosis, but because all the kids were held together. And it wasn't like the children raised next to, the property owners. I'm trying, it's all so gross to me. It's not that they were treated better, it's that they were treated as like the white kids' pets.
Yeah, I kind of get a little bit of that vibe, but also Robert is pretty independent, and he goes out and like in the streets of Beaufort and plays with the other white kids. Like it doesn't seem that he was particularly like the pet in this particular case. It seems, I don't want to say that they considered him an equal either, but I think it was somewhere in between.
Okay.
So because of this, Lydia's like, oh, no. You need to actually see what it's like to be a Black man in the South right now. So by the age of like 10, she has taken him to see auctions. He's seen the whipping post. He knows what it's like to work in the fields, even though he's never personally done it. And this makes him incredibly defiant. Like, I was born better than this. Why do we treat each other this way? Because of this, by the time he's 12, he ends up in the local clink. I count this amount of times. Like, we don't have an exact number, but we know it's more than 2. And every time he ends up in the local jail for whatever, maybe it's missing curfew because they had a curfew, or speaking out, or whatever the reason, every single time he goes to jail, Mr. McKee comes and bails him out. Which leads me to think that he knows that's his son, because then later, by the time he's 12, Mom says, Mr. McKee, he's not doing well here. Can we send him to Charleston, get him a day laborer job so that he hopefully, gets out of the trouble he's in? Mr. McKee says that's great. He moves him to Charleston. He works all over the Charleston harbor doing random jobs. At one point, he's making for himself $1. So he's allowed to be paid. He's making himself $1 a week, and he's sending the rest of the money back to his master. He spends tons of time working in and around the harbor. At one point, he's there installing explosive mines into the Charleston harbor. This is going to come back later. While he's there, so he's been there a few years now. He's done dockhand work. He's done, I believe one of the things that was listed that he did was like the knocker upper, like the wake you up guys.
Okay, good. Because that word I've heard before, but it never means to me what you just explained.
Same. Or a lamplight or something like that. Like he did a few of those really classic, like, oh my gosh, that was a job once type jobs.
Right. When you're watching those Charles Dickinson stories and you're just like, oh,
yeah,
like
exactly.
Rizzo and the rat lighting the lamppost in Christmas Story.
Exactly.
Or Muppets Christmas Carol.
Yep. I knew what you meant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So while he's working in that area, he meets a woman by the name of Hannah. She is 15 years older than him. And he falls head over heels in love with Hannah. So he asks to marry her. Both of their masters, Hannah's working as a maid in one of the local hotels, but both of their masters agree to let them marry. So they have, I don't fully understand this, but I guess they have a house there in town that they share, but they are both still owned by someone else.
Okay.
But again, I think it speaks to the preferential treatment that Robert received from McKee, because I feel like he didn't do this for all of his slaves, to allow him to just go and live somewhere else and pretty much have a life of his own. But at the same time, he still has to send all his money back.
I was just going to say that. Like, I mean, he is basically living on, not on an allowance. He's giving his master
Yeah.
that, so as long as it's profitable, it doesn't sound like a bad arrangement for the owner.
And I guess he's keeping him out of jail doing it. So there's that.
That's true. There's somebody else to yell at him for it. So, win-win.
I guess, yeah. So Miss Hannah has already by this point 2 other young teen daughters, probably 13 and 14.
Okay.
We know of one called Clara, who was still with her at the time of her marriage to Robert. He is there within, I want to say, a year of their marriage. They have their first child, and it's a little girl. At this point, he realizes, like, I have a family now. We have to be free. I can't risk my wife and children being sold off. And he kind of starts working these ideas and how we're going to go about this in a world where, free is not there and it's not easy to come by.
Yeah.
But by the time his daughter turns 3, he gets a job on the Planter, which is a steam-powered paddle boat that's designed for shallow water and is incredibly fast. Originally, I believe the Planter's used as like transport, like a cargo, moving cotton and tobacco and things out of one place and into another. But by the time the Civil War starts, which we are now at least a year into, it's used as either gun transport or munitions transport for Fort Sumter.
Okay.
So I love this man so much. He is now the wheelman, I believe is the term. I'll have to double check that, but he's basically the pilot of this boat. And he, in his area, he is known as the best. Like, there is nobody that can navigate these waters better than Robert Smalls. So the captain, there's 3 white officers on this boat. Captain Charles J. Relia, the first mate, Samuel Smith Hancock, and the engineer, Samuel Z. Picture. And several other black slaves working on the Planter as deckhands. I have some of their names. Would you like to know their names?
Hell yeah, let's say them.
So there's a John Small, unrelated.
Okay.
There is a Alfred Gordian and John Small. They're both engineers. And the deckhands' names are Davy Jones, which it's David Jones, but I'm going to go with Davy, and I'm just going to say he can't be on board because Davy Jones in a boat just seems like a terrible idea.
Very superstitious,
Exactly. Jack Gibbs, Gabriel Turner, and Abraham Jackson. Those are the names we know for sure. I think there were a few other on board, but those are the names we know for sure. So I think it's important to share their names, at least to me, because it gives character and humanity to these characters that typically aren't given names or given a story. I think that's super important.
Well, and it's like anytime you're doing research on people from this time period who were enslaved, we don't have paper trails. We don't have birth certificates. We very rarely have death certificates. We don't get marriage licenses. We have no paper trail.
Right. And most of the time we don't always get names either. So as soon as I read the names, for me, I started building their faces and their hair and what their clothes might have looked like and how they might have responded to the situation that they found themselves in. And some of them had girlfriends. So one of them may have even had another small child. So there's life happening here in a really sad, strange place. But they're living.
That there is a war happening and your freedom depends on it, but you're stuck on the side. You know what I mean? That had to be just so impactful.
I think in my, yeah, like for me to think like this war is happening and I am stuck serving the side that is been holding me down.
Yeah.
I don't blame anybody for trying to change it at all.
No.
I mean, my God. And I'm sure that there are cases where there were probably people that saw the war happening and were either scared or thought, you know what, I'm in a good position. Maybe their master is a decent chap and don't want to mess with the status quo because of the ramifications that could come with messing with the status quo, you know?
But there's also Stockholm syndrome where
Oh, for
you end
sure.
up like being in a real bad situation and still decide, you know what? It's others have it worse. It's and awful things are happening in the background. It's like, yeah, but it's not as bad as so and so.
As the tree is burning down.
Right.
Like,
And meanwhile, so and so is like, no, dude, you got it much worse than me. It's like, no, it's not so bad. Like the
yeah,
meme, this is fine. This is fine.
that was kind of exactly what I was thinking. Like, I wonder when I was researching this and just thinking about his story and thinking about the fact that he's got a wife and as a mom, like to think to myself that at any point someone's going to come and take like they could come and take my child and sell them,
Yeah.
not a chance in hell. So just to be having to serve on that side, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm just my heart for them. But anyway, so that being said, around April of 1862, so by this point Fort Sumter was fired on a year earlier, so we're at
Okay.
least a year into the Civil War. And Fort Sumter is the major fort just outside of Charleston Harbor. So that's kind of their main. Charleston Harbor is kind of like the main, like, lifeblood port of this
Yeah.
area, right? So about a year after that, in April of 1862, Smalls has been serving on this boat with these officers for at least a year. He's earned the trust and the respect of these officers. They call him the best wheelman in town. Like, if it weren't for him, we couldn't do our job.
Mm.
He's the reason it's happening. Um by this time, the planter has a cargo of guns and ammo. It's fast, super fast. And there's actually a list online. I can send it to you if you want to read it, of what's actually loaded on this ship. Wait, when I say snafu, I mean snafu. This ship is loaded. Like, Fort Sumter probably could have done a lot better if it had received the items that were on this ship when they were on this ship.
I am so ready for this because I know where this
So,
is going, but it's so much better having all the deets.
right? So he's serving on the ship. One afternoon, the white officers have, I think, disboarded the ship. They've maybe gone to town, and the deckhands and Smalls are doing their work on the ship. Well, the captain had left. He has this like rather large straw hat. Has left the straw hat on board, and one of the other deckhands, I'm not sure which
Wait.
one.
Do we have a picture of the straw hat? Because I'm imagining the hats that you see the quintessential, um, I'm going to say white lifestyle bloggers wearing at the beach, you know, with the super wide
Yeah,
brim.
that's what I'm imagining too. So there is pictures of all of these. I'm not sure about that particular hat, but there are pictures of most of the players in this story.
Okay.
I'll see if I can find you the hat though.
I don't know why I feel like the hat is its own character right now.
Oh, it absolutely is its own character. And at this point in my imagination, Robert Smalls looks a lot like a young Chris Rock.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so now
Thank
you
you. So
have. You're
now
welcome.
we've casted the entire film.
Yes. So the hat gets put on his head, and the deckhands are joking like, "Oh, you totally look like the captain. You should just captain this ship." And he's like, "No, no, 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 no." He takes the hat off, puts it down.
Oh my gosh, I love this. That's foreshadowing. And eventually they're going to be like, we kind of gave him the idea.
Right. So Smalls, like, while they're joking, and like he whatever sets it aside, goes about his work, but now the thought's been placed in his mind. So Smalls has the know-how to get out. Oh, and I forgot this minor little detail. The Union Navy has blockaded the harbor. So the Union fleet is less than 10 miles. Like, it's there.
Yeah.
So Smalls is like, okay, I have the skill. I know all the secret codes to get out of the harbor, to pass all the sentries.
Yep.
I kind of have the same like build as the captain. Interesting. So he starts watching the captain. He starts paying attention to the way he stands, to the way he moves, to just like the simple nod of his head.
He starts method acting.
Pretty much. So he goes home one night and he says to the wife, I got an idea. Okay. And he tells her, I got a way out, but it's dangerous. If we're caught, we could be beaten, we could be sold separately, it could be worse. But I think we can do it. And the wife says, where you go, I go. Where you die, I die.
Now, I have been married long enough to know that that was a 10-second conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But in real life, that had been 3 hours and there would have been so much.
Yeah. So at this point in the story, I'm not sure if he has shared with her his exact method, but eventually he does because she is kind of crucial to the escape. So he goes and he talks to the other deckhands and the other slaves on the ship that he's serving on, and he's like, hey, remember the other day when you were like, oh, you look like the captain, didn't you?
Oh,
I kind of
no.
do.
Like, this makes it even more harrowing because there's a song, I can't remember who it's by, but it's basically two can keep a secret if one of them is dead.
Yeah, right.
And every person you tell is another point of failure.
Right. However, all of these deckhands, except for there's conflicting stories, it was either one or two. All of them are like, yes, let's do it. The two that don't never say a word. My assumption is they just quote unquote jump ship. I don't want to be involved in this. And I'm thinking probably either that Stockholm syndrome or I actually don't want to get beat if we fail.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm not saying we have to stop this story and immediately research who didn't escape and what happened to them, but I don't know if I would want to be left behind.
I feel so. This is what I'm going to say based on what I know how that happens after the fact. The white men's errors probably more than cover these two that jump ship.
I don't know though, like, we've just got those stories of like, the whipping boy or the scapegoat or the whatever. I am already at a disadvantage if I am being forced to work, and stuff rolls downhill.
You're right. You're right. You're right. But anyway.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to derail the story.
You, no, you're not. Because I thought the same thing. Like, what happened to those two?
Yeah.
Like, So anyway, so he starts plotting. They've been watching the captain. They kind of have a little bit of an idea of how they could pull it off. And then the perfect night presents itself. May 13th of 1862.
So how long has it been since he had the idea? Do we have
about a month?
Okay. Oh, sitting on a secret like this for a month.
Well, not only sitting on the secret, but also waiting for the opportunity to present itself.
Yeah.
Because it can only happen under certain circumstances. And that night is May 13th. The three sailors, Rayla and his mates, the three white men.
Yeah.
Or, I'm sorry, Relier and his mates decide they are going to leave the boat for the night, whether to attend a party or to attend their wives or whatever the case is. And they're going to leave the boat in the hands of their trusty, capable slaves. And so they go ashore, which at this point now, according to General Order Number 5 of the Confederacy, is against the rules. You have to have a white man on board a ship.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The the officer needs to be present. However, up to this point, the slaves on board have proven to be nothing but decent
Subservient. Yeah.
Yeah, doing their job, being great navigators, great deckhands. They're not causing problems. They're doing their jobs.
I bet that this wasn't the first time they were left alone, but they just knew they didn't have enough time. And so they had to like earn that trust. Like, hey, I'm going to go aboard and get a pack of, or shore and get a pack of cigarettes. And it's like, sure, we'll be right here. Pick up some milk on your way back.
Yeah. Would you mind bringing back a Sammy?
Yeah.
The other thing that comes into play here is this particular day, May 13th, the ship was supposed to leave harbor again. So they came in, they did whatever they were going to do. They were supposed to be docked for the evening and then leave exceptionally early the next morning.
So that was already the plan.
That's already the plan. So when the captain says to Smalls, hey, me and the boys are going to go throw some back at the pub, immediately Smalls is like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Because they're gone and the they have to pass through 5 different sentries or forts to get out into the open water. And so they know that these 5 places already expect the planter to be leaving.
Mm-hmm.
So tonight is the night. So he sends word to his wife, who gathers up the rest of the people, the children that they're bringing with them, and the girlfriends and a couple of other people.
Yeah.
And she brings with them a linen white bed sheet, because those aren't stored on the ship. So super, super crucial. So the guys leave. Smalls and his gang get ready. Word has been sent to the wives. They pick up the babies. They go. There is a total that we know of 16 persons on board at this point, including the wives and children. This has to be done without the wives or the children being seen or heard. So can you imagine, in the dead of night, with your infant child and a 4-year-old, how you plan to keep them quiet?
I mean, I already know horrible stories of people doing what it took to keep the little ones quiet. And oftentimes it involved intoxicating them or accidentally smothering, like all of those things. All of the things.
Yeah. So this is what the women are thinking, and they're getting a bit panicked. Like, how do we maintain being quiet? How do we maintain being out of sight? So they get locked. One source says they get locked in a stateroom. I don't imagine this ship has like captain's staterooms like we're thinking like on a cruise, but probably the captain's quarters is my best guess. So they set out. At the harbor, they make it past a policeman and a night watchman, who both later say that they thought it was the captain and his crew, so they never questioned it. Like, of course, the planer's going out tomorrow morning. Why would that not be the captain and the crew?
Right.
Like, duh. So they make it past the other 4 sentries, the other 4 guards, quiet, following the rules, following the hand signals and the whistles and the blows and all the things you have to say and the mannerisms of the captain, because that plays on this, right? Like, do you stand like the captain? Do you look like the captain?
Yeah.
Are you questionable at all?
Can I just say right now, I already know the story, but I am already nauseous.
Yeah, me too. And if Mr. Smalls was, we don't know, because he was ironclad and handled his business.
You have got to have a raging amount of cortisol and adrenaline ripping through your body.
Right? So at 4:15 a.m., they make it to Fort Sumter. The women are praying and crying, and the men are quoted as having their knees feeling quite weak. With the captain's big straw hat pulled low on his head to help cover his face, he pulls the whistle string for 2 long blows and 1 short one, as he had watched the captain do many times before. This is the code to prove that you are in fact aboard a Confederate ship, and you are in fact allowed out.
The secret handshake.
Pretty much. He hears the Yankee or the Confederate guard yell, "Blow the damned Yankees to hell or bring one back." And he responds with, "Aye, aye." And I imagine, because of the rest of this story, what we learn about him, that he's got a little smirk on his face at this point.
First off, can you imagine, like, let's zoom out a second. That blowing a horn, which is super loud, very easy to understand as a secret handshake. You're not going to a key panel and typing in a secret code or handing in your fingerprint. You're delivering a code that is audible for a decent pot. Yeah, exactly. And so everybody in the sun, like the area just goes, oh yeah, that's the thing. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Okay. I mean, I get technology hadn't come so far as, like scanning your iris, but okay.
Well, you remember the part where I was like the white men southern snafus here, right? Like this was not well thought out.
Well, I mean, it may not be well thought out, but I mean, okay, let's look at the other side. Looking at the level of technology that they had at the time, I don't know if they had a lot of other recourse other than,
at least not in the middle of the night, right? I mean, it's pitch
Right.
black out, right? So you have to assume,
yeah,
I guess a whistle's really only your option at the moment. So as soon as he is out of firing range of the fort, which he also knows, by the way, he has his crewmen pull down the Confederate flag and the South Carolina flag, and he hoists Miss Hannah's white bed sheet up for the Union blockade.
And that thing was freshly bleached because they're like, this will not be any shade but the brightest of whites.
Right. At this point, the fog rolls in. And they're like, crap. That we look like a Confederate ship, full gun in it, right into the Union blockade. This is going to go bad. Off in the distance is a clipper ship called the Onward. It's captained by Volunteer Lieutenant John Frederick Nichols. And he is, at this point, assuming that what he is seeing barreling down on him is, in fact, an ironclad Confederate ship. However, he spots the white bedsheet.
Great news. Great news, because, I can only imagine as a volunteer on the front line, you might be hair trigger.
A little bit.
Rightfully so.
A little bit. So he yells. At this point, he hails them, and he learns their intent, and he tells them to pull up alongside. However, either the passengers on the planter didn't hear him or were so like, oh, thank God we made it, that they don't. And so he yells again, "Stop, or I will blow you out of the water." At which point, the crew of the planter gets it together, and they pull up alongside the Onward. There's dancing and jumping, and some turn back to face Fort Sumter and curse it. But regardless, they're free.
And everybody vomited a vomit of relief.
I would.
I mean.
So Small says, right? Small says to the captain, "Good morning, sir. I brought you some of the old United States guns, sir. They were for Fort Sumter, sir." So hold, please, while I pull up some of the quotes that were given after he goes into the blockade. He says, okay. Okay. Mr. DuPont, who is one of the commanding officers of the area, says this about Robert. "Robert, the intelligent slave and pilot of the boat, who performed this bold feat so skillfully, informed me of the capture of the Sumter gun, presuming it would be a matter of interest. He is superior to any to have come into our lines, intelligent as many of them have been."
I love that for him, and hate that it had to be called out, that we can't just assume they are just like us.
Right?
That is notable.
Yes. Do you care to know what was on board that ship?
Let me have it. I mean, I don't care if it's nothing but lace and glitter, but I have
Okay.
a feeling it's not.
It has approximately 200 rounds of ammunition, a 32-pound pivot gun, a 24-pound howitzer, and 4 other guns. Among them is one of them that was dented on the original attack at Sumter. To which, remember when he said, we have a gun we think you might be interested in?
Yep.
That was it.
Nice.
The first gun fired on at Sumter. So, long story about this portion short, the white Union officers are like in love with him. He couldn't be a better pilot. He couldn't be a better officer. So one of the things that he had agreed upon with his master and the master of his wife and children was that at some point he would be able to buy their freedom. He needed to make $800.
What is that in today's money? Because $800 now, like if you said, hey, I need $800, I'm going to need to double check a couple things.
Well, so this is what I know of. It's not so much $800, but I will tell you what the Union Navy gives him. He needs $800 to free his wife and child.
Wait a minute. Wait, so he's still planning on paying for their freedom?
No, not at this point because they're free.
I was about to say,
he's been
like,
saving up. Yeah.
okay.
He's been saving up and he's only got like maybe a couple $100 at this point. But at any point, the master can back out and take, change plans, right?
Right. I mean, shoot, if a breedable pig during the war, the pig war was, $5,000 in today's money.
Right. So I'll tell you, this is what happens. The Union Navy appraises the planter and they give him $1,500.
Oh, hell yes. And that's in Civil War money?
That's $53,000 today.
Oh, hell yeah.
He's free. His family's free. His crew is free. And the Confederacy puts a bounty on his head of $4,000, which is roughly today $143,000.
Can I just note real quick the fun, parallel between Doris Payne's first diamond sale being roughly the same in modern money as what I know I shouldn't compare thieves to somebody who, breaks through oppression, but good grief.
Right? Here's the parts of the story that are absolutely my favorite parts of the story. The next morning, General, you're killing me, Smalls Ripley wakes up the next morning and says, crap, not again. Like 3 weeks before, 15 slaves stole a barge that was also under his command. That's kind of embarrassing.
Oh my gosh. So they damn well knew better.
And they sure did.
They played a game of let's make the same mistake.
More than once, yeah. The white sailors that, skipped the ship and went aboard to party it up or hang out with their wives, they end up court-martialed and in some big trouble.
I know that they're the Confederate side, but rightfully so.
It makes me laugh so hard. Like, you fools did not see this coming. The amount of times you yourself have said he's the best wheelman in town.
Hey, why don't you put on the captain's hat? Oh, we got this memo about, hey, this happening before, like only a couple of weeks ago. So the ink is still fresh on this note.
Yep. Yeah. So George Ferguson, he's an angry Scotsman. And I imagine he sounds like Uncle Scrooge, if I'm being honest.
Uncle Scrooge as played by David Tennant, or are we going?
Yeah, Uncle Scrooge is played by David Tennant. I love that you know that because this is my favorite rendition of the DuckTales, but that's a whole different day. So he owns the ship, the planter, and he says to the court-martial, the orders weren't super clear for the sailors about where they're supposed to be that night. So anyway, the three sailors get out of their martial trouble.
Wait a
their
minute. That does
trouble.
not sound like an angry Scotsman. I imagine an angry Scotsman being so animated that he is spilling his scotch as he
and
is
spitting everywhere. Yeah.
Oh,
Only I know for a fact that right now, because I'm thinking about it, I'm not sure if I can do it. You know?
the accent or spill your scotch. I mean, I know that this is early in the morning when we're recording
I don't
this,
have
but
scotch. I don't have scotch right now because it is early in the morning. I'm not so sure I can do the accent right this second. Like I think I can, but I'm not going to try it and butcher my own heritage. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, here's what I love about Mike. Mike would try, but it would be an Australian accent.
Appreciate that.
And it would be hilarious because it would be like, wait, where are you from again?
And I'm sorry, what part of Scotland is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So long story short, old Georgie boy, he gets the three sailors out of trouble. However, our friend Mr. Smalls becomes the first black naval captain.
That's a great promotion that he is well earned.
Right? So now he has like incoming monies. He's got rank, and the Union Navy loves him. He is a war hero.
Yeah. He
right?
brought in like free guns.
Mm-hmm.
Tons of well-trained personnel.
Mm-hmm.
Who have motive and are pot committed to seeing them win.
Exactly. So a couple of things he does. McKee, Robert's former master now, because he is free man, loses all his property, all his holdings, everything else. So one of the things I learned while researching this is, and I don't know why I didn't previously know this, but this was news to me, so I'm just, hopefully it's news to someone else, I guess. During the Civil War, a lot of Confederate landholders lost their properties. Either they weren't paying property tax, or they just up and left, or it was taken from them.
Property tax to who? I mean, this is a valid question, because here's my assumptions. I'm going to lay them out one by one. I'm going to assume that the Union is just like, you're still technically ours, and you still technically owe taxes. And the Confederacy is like, you know what, guys, go ahead and ignore your property tax, because, I mean, we've got our own money. Like, what are you going to do? Pay them with Confederate bills?
That's kind of what I think is happening. Yeah. Among like things just being taken from them, from the North, whether it was like, we literally like took your property, like physically took it. Or yeah, they're having so much fines put upon them for not paying their property taxes that eventually they just lose it anyway, because you can't afford to pay those fines. So that is one of the things that happens. So McKee loses everything. Smalls goes to Lincoln and helps him convince that there are a lot of blacks who could serve in the war effort, and then further helps to recruit 5,000 of them to the Union side. After the war is over and the North has won, this man, Robert is back on the planter in Charleston Harbor commemorating the war. Can you imagine being the captain of your ship that you stole, that you drove through a blockade, gave to the Union Navy? The Union Navy's like, well, you're great, we love you. Would you like to serve us? So this is in one of the best parts to me. They put him on another ship. He serves on the ship. They put him back on the planter. He serves on the planter. In one of the 17 conflicts that he's involved in, his captain, so I don't know what his rank is at this point, but his captain loses his cool and goes and hides like with the coal.
Okay. Robert
assumes command. The Union Navy then gives him the ship. Good. This is yours. You're the captain. So
you know what I was afraid of? I was afraid of like, they made him a captain of a ship, but they said, you know what? The boat you have is really strong, really powerful, really fast. So we're actually going to give you command of the Sardine over here. And we're going to give this one.
Right. No. So at the end of the war, he is sitting on his own boat in the harbor where it all started for him. So commemorating the end of the Civil War.
So he gets a boatload of money. And gets to keep the and
he gets the boat. After the war is over, our idiot friend, who I am now saying is an idiot, the VP, Andrew Johnson, says, quite possibly the dumbest thing ever. White man alone must manage the South.
Unfortunately, as problematic as that was a pervasive thought. I mean, let's go
Indeed.
back to looking and acknowledging that Smalls was an intelligent human being and feeling the
Exactly.
need to call that out.
Right. So you know what Smalls does about Andrew saying that?
Kick him in the junk.
No, he gets involved in politics. He and community affairs. He opens a store for freed slaves and a school before becoming involved with the local Republican Party. In 1865, he is elected to the South Carolina House of Representatives. And then in 1871 and in 1874, the state Senate, or excuse me, 1871 for the state Senate, 1874, the U.S. House of Representatives, where he pushed for so this quote, he pushed for an amendment regarding a bill for the United States Army that would ensured that race would never again be a criterion for enlistment in the Army. That was never considered, though, at that time anyway.
Right.
And while he was considered a war hero, his time in politics was not always easy. He was having to deal with just free Jim Crow.
Yeah.
He is having to deal with early version of the KKK and other we have like voter fraud now and problems now. Imagine that like exponentially.
Well, yeah. I mean, because from what I know about the Civil War or post-Civil War, and it's embarrassingly bad, is that we had this period of Reconstruction where we attempted to elevate those who are coming out of enslavement. And then we end up going through this awful period, the Great Nadir, where the pendulum basically swings the other way, and people who have historically held power try to create laws to subvert those who are rising.
Right. So that's what he's living in. So at this time, I don't remember the exact circumstances. I know that George Ferguson, the Angry Scotsman, tries to sue him for the boat, and that doesn't work. And there's a couple of adversaries in politics that are constantly causing problems for him. So at some point between George Ferguson and one of these adversaries, he is held at gunpoint by a pistol. And this might be my favorite moment of the whole story. He says, as he is cocking his double-barrel shotgun.
So pistol versus shotgun.
Pistol versus shotgun. Mr.
Roll them
Robert
dice.
Small says, you best not miss, because I surely won't.
That's like that line in Kill Bill where the two women are in the hotel room and they're firing on each other. And I think it's Lisa Liu's character who says, I'm basically a surgeon with a shotgun, not that I'd need it.
Yeah, so this is the point of the story with which I imagine he lifts his clearly ironclad cojones back into the wheelbarrow and rolls them home.
Yeah.
After arriving back in Charleston, he does a couple of really cool things. He buys his former master's house.
I love that for him.
It is now his house. His wife, his mother, and their children. So his family, his mother. I was so excited to know his mother was still alive at this point. They live out the rest of their days. McKee's wife, the former master, she is a little bit mentally unaware. Maybe there's some things going on upstairs, and she's sickly. She wanders back into the house one day, assuming it's hers. And Roberts does what any, individual having gone through all of this would do, and he invites her to live there the remainder of her days. So he moves her and at least two of her children back into the house, and he cares for them the rest of their lives.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
that that requires quite a bit of healing on his end to
right?
be able to do that.
So the Dollop podcast, which was one of my sources, mentioned how even though he was clearly the master of the house now, um, the white woman refused to eat at the table with them. So Robert again does the thing that anybody going through these circumstances would do, and he just arranges for her to have a different dinner time.
I mean, he's better as a human than I am as a parent, because my rule is you don't want what I'm having or you don't feel the need to eat with me, starve.
Right. And
Eventually you'll be hungry enough.
Right. He makes these accommodations for these people that owe him, like, in such a it just speaks to the character of the man that he is. At the age of 75, on February 13, 1915, he dies of complications of malaria and diabetes. 5 years before his daughter, who was born a slave, gets the right to vote.
Can we also acknowledge just quickly that he fought in the war and died in 1915? Like that, it feels like, I mean, I understand time works in a linear fashion. I understand that one year begets another and things move, in succession like that. However, I feel like hearing him dying in 1915, there is an unfortunate chasm where I feel like time stops. And it's like in between the Civil War and the time that my 100-year-old farmhouse was built, there's 300 years in between those time periods. And so knowing he died 5 years before my home was built, I'm like, wait a minute, that can't be, because that's 700 years in between those two time periods. And so it's like,
that's totally how my brain works too.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah. No, but it's like, I have to do math and go, wait a minute, Teresa, you are flawed as a human here.
Like, dude, to think he died in 1915 and I was born in 1984.
That is mind-boggling. Like, I know that it shouldn't be.
It messes with my brain as well. Would you like to hear what his headstone says?
Of course.
My race needs no special defense, for the past history of them in this country proves them to be the equal of any people anywhere. All they need is an equal chance in the battle of life. That is a portion of a speech that he gave during his political reign.
Oh.
Can you? I'm going to break us out of slavery. Also, I'm going to be a politician. Also, I'm going to buy my master's old house. Also, I'm going to be a super cool chap. Also, don't aim at me because you'll miss.
I mean, okay, I think you told that out of order. He's a super cool chap.
Yep.
And I think
and then all these other things.
Right. I think like that's where it starts, Like, oh my gosh, like there is so many things where you think your mindset begets so much of your life. Like there is something I tell my daughter only because I need to hear it. And that is, you are the strongest person in any room you walk into as long as you keep your wits about you, which means you have to be breathing and controlling your emotions. And as long as you can do that and you're intentional, you will be the strongest person.
I want to be half as cool as this man. Half as cool. Like, when I read his whole story, I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Like, and I just have to think that mom was such a player in this. Like, we don't hear a ton of information about her, but she's the reason he went to Charleston. She seems to be like this force in his life that is why he's the way he is. And I loved knowing she got to see freedom.
I loved knowing she got her family back.
And to think, like, I imagine that she dies a happy old lady in her son's home, surrounded by her grandchildren. Like, what? What a thing to not only be having served in that house. We have no idea what horrors she saw.
Well, especially after, hey, look at everything your son did, and here's the bounty on his head.
Right. So it gives me chills thinking about it. But then I remember at one point he says, "Well, you best not miss, because I won't." I'm like, yes.
I mean, that is some like Doc Holiday level shenanigans.
Oh, yes, exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking somewhere between Doc Holliday and Clint Eastwood.
Truth.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. So that's my guy. That's my story. He's added to my list of favorite heroes, and if anybody is interested, there is so much information about him because fortunately he served in politics.
Oh, yeah.
So the internet is a mass of stories that are so much fun. When I was listening to one of the podcasts because I listened to 3 in one day about him. By the time I was listening to the last one, the last 10 minutes of his story, I was literally cackling at Ethan's trap shoot, and one of his coaches kept looking at me. And I was like, sorry. I realize you can't see my headphones.
Right.
Oops. Don't cackle at trap shoots, I understand.
I mean, you're just that crazy woman in the corner laughing as they're shooting guns.
That was exactly what was happening. Exactly what was happening.
It's like, Angie's lost it.
Until I move my hair back and see my headphones, and they're like, oh, you're listening to something.
I mean, and I purposely wear big over here headphones just because I'm sitting here thinking like, I want to give you every opportunity to not talk to me.
Yes, only so I have my Beats are my favorite headphones, but they live at home, so they don't get like smashed or ruined because I'd be very sad. So just take my AirPods with me everywhere,
Okay,
which
okay.
does create, the problem of sometimes people trying to talk to me, but whatever, it's fine. So there's my story. Did you love it?
I absolutely loved it. And I love knowing so much more than the, quick 30-second to 3-minute, video update of him.
Right. I agree. Oh, I'm being hailed.
Well, I mean, we have been here for quite a while. So on that note, how about I sign us off and tell people where they can find us?
That sounds great. I love it.
All right. So thank you for listening. We love the fact that you are here, that you're listening with us. And if you have any story ideas or if there is a way we could have improved this, let us know. unhinged.historypod@gmail.com, and we'll read it. We really will. And we will definitely take it under advisement. And depending what you write, we might read it online or out loud on the air. Those are the words I was looking for.
I mean, technically it's all those things. So yeah, that works.
I mean, roll dice. We'll pick an option. On that note, we'll see you next time. Bye. Bye.